Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. My name is Peter J. Redding. I'm a professional coach, and master trainer. We're going to continue our series of the steps of coaching engagement, and we're currently at step number 7, which is a sample session. It's a terminology that we utilize in coaching that indicates that we're offering an opportunity for a client, a prospective client, to determine if I'm a good fit for them and they're a good fit for me. So we're going to talk about what goes into a sample session, the purposes of the sample session, and also the structure of a sample session. In our next episode, in number 8, we'll actually do I will do a demonstration, live demonstration of going through what we talk about today. So, purposes and structure of a sample session. We've been talking about the stages of the coaching engagement, starting with the fulfillment coaching model. Who are you going to coach? Introducing yourself as a coach. A coach-like conversation, which is really the very beginning of practicing to be a professional coach. So if you are becoming or want to become a professional coach or understand what goes into a professional coach, you're in exact right place. If you are a person that is in an organization that's looking at bringing in coaches or coaching as a philosophy, you too are in exactly the right place. Because this series is talking about how do we, as professional coaches, how do we operate? What do we do? What do we say? What do we share? What do we not share? And the sample session is some will call this a chemistry session to determine if there's a good fit and if coaching is appropriate for this particular prospective client or not appropriate at this particular time for this particular client. Because coaching does not replace good mentoring. It does not replace training. It does not replace good leadership and management skills or parenting skills. It's a necessary thing for us as coaches to understand what the client is looking for within the coaching. Do they have the sense of self-responsibility that's appropriate and necessary for a coach to work with a prospective client? And so let's get right into it. Purposes for the prospective client. We'll look next at what's appropriate or what are the purposes for the coach themselves, but right now, the prospective client. Number 1, opportunity to better understand what coaching is, what coaching is not, what it can provide, and get a sense of the methodology. There's a lot of misunderstanding about what coaching is. There's lots of coaches out there that call themselves a coach that are not coaching, at least according to my perspective and the International Coaching Federation's perspective of, for example, not giving advice, allowing the client to develop on their own. So when a prospective client comes to a sample session, they often come with the idea of, okay, great. I have Peter as my coach. He's an elder. He's been an executive. He's been in leadership positions for most of his life. He'll be able to give me good advice in terms of how I should navigate, how I should negotiate this stage of my career, this stage of my life, this stage of going on into more responsible positions in a leadership capacity. And that's not what I'm going to do as a coach. I'm going to hold a space. I'm going to ask them provocative questions, have them do the work, but I'm not going to give them advice. So it's a reorientation to, again, professional coaching and what it offers. Opportunity to determine if coaching is the right support for them. They may be looking for a training course. They may be looking for a mentor within their organization that is going to give them a perspective and the knowledge that this mentor has gained by being there for maybe 10 years, 15 years longer than they've been there. Maybe they're looking to create an advocacy of a senior person in their organization so that they can be an advocate for their forward movement, for being in a position of authority and positioning them as, here's a candidate that we ought to be looking at amongst the other 2 or 3 candidates that we're looking at for this particular advancement, job, promotion, etc. And again, coaching per se, professional coaching, professional modern day coaching may not fulfill those things for this prospective client. Opportunity to be coached, to actually be coached on an area of interest of the clients. So they get an actual opportunity of the modality of coaching. They're actually going to experience what a professional coach is all about, what they get out of it, or perhaps what they don't get out of it, which is just as valuable to that prospective candidate to find out if this is the right fit for them. And finally, an opportunity to determine the chemistry with you as the coach, me as the coach, if I'm the coach in a situation. Do I have a chemistry as a coach with this particular client? Again, or not? Here's my personal estimation is that 80% of early coaching meaning with organizations that have not had coaches, professional coaches come in, been external hired professional coaches, external coaches, or where the HR professional in the organization has assigned, okay, so Sanjeev, I'm going to assign you to Peter. He's a professional coach. Here's his contact information. Go coach, right? There's been an arbitrary assignment of coach and client. 80% of the time when that doesn't work, it doesn't work because the prospective client didn't know what they're getting into, number one. And number two, there was no chemistry. And what I mean by chemistry is, do they feel safe with me? Did they feel that they can go deep, divulge innermost thoughts and consciousness of what's happening for them in their lives, in their jobs, in their careers, with relationships around them, in and out of work? And without that chemistry, without that sense of, yes, I feel safe with this particular coach. I feel like he gets me, or she gets me, or they get me. Then coaching ends up being very shallow, very transactional, very, I'll do the minimum of showing up. I'm talking about the prospective client now. I'll do the minimum of showing up. I'll go the very shallow in terms of my innermost thoughts because I don't trust him. I don't trust her. So that's a huge one. There has to be chemistry. And for those of you that are thinking of bringing in professional coaches to your organization, either hiring them for internally coaching or an external coach that's going to work with one of your CEO, CXOs, then give the prospective client choice, at least 3 choices, maybe more, but have them choose their coach as opposed to assigning a coach to them, regardless of the coach's credentials. So that's another opportunity for this prospective client during the sample session to get a feel, a sense, am I safe? Can I open myself up, maybe even more than I ever have anywhere else? Do I trust them to hold this as confidential? Anything that I say during the sample session will be held confidentially, does not go back to the hiring authority or the sponsor. Again, or not. Do I not feel that? So these are huge. This is huge. And even if the prospective client does not hire me as a result of this sample session, as a professional coach, I have been able to support this individual's better understanding of what a coach is and what it is not, which leads me to the purposes for the coach. The first purpose of the coach is an opportunity to share with the world the benefits and power of coaching. Again, whether they hire me or not, it's an opportunity to share what coaching is firsthand. And the more of us professional coaches that do this work and lay the groundwork for future generations or future opportunities to work with this particular client or someone else that this client might refer someone else that they know to a professional coach. It builds helping to build a foundation of professional coaching worldwide. So, and let me just dwell on that for a minute. Coaching is a new profession. It's been around for 25 years, 26 years professionally as an organized modality to support human beings that are responsible for their own forward movement. It has been studied and researched to prove that it is very effective in developing people personally, developing leadership specifically, and has been touted as the most effective development modality that exists in our world today because it is 100% customizable. It relies on the individual client to develop their own answers, self-generated, work on self-commitments, ones that they've come up with. They take ownership of those things, and it develops their capacity to work through tough issues about their physicality, their bodies, their relationships, their intimate relationships when they're away from work, issues that come up at work that are challenging, and stop to a great extent relying on someone else telling them what to do and how to do it. So coaching is a brilliant modality that has gone global. There are professionally trained coaches in, I think the last I looked, like 143 countries around the world. And there's going to be more and more professional coaches being trained and credentialed as we move forward to support individuals to start developing themselves. So it's just a great opportunity to do that in a sample session or a chemistry session. Okay, some people call it a chemistry session. Number 2, an opportunity to determine if coaching will serve this particular client, this particular prospective client. While coaching is spectacularly effective, it is not meant to replace a good therapist if the individual is dealing with things from the past and is stuck in a sense of a victim mentality. I can't because of something that happened to me earlier in my life. I didn't grow up in the right place. I didn't get the right education. I was abused in some form or fashion. Professional coaches are not geared, trained, licensed to do therapy. So if the prospective client is looking for that type of support, coaching is not it. So it's important to know when and where and how to use coaches as opposed to other professionals. Number three, opportunity to determine the chemistry again with a client. Now, the topic, the subject matter of the coaching sessions is 100% determined by the client. Now, the client can be influenced or supported by their sponsor, by their company, to work on specific areas of development that has been identified in their IDPs, individual development plans. And the client will determine what they talk about in each session. It's one of the foundational elements of professional coaching. So they drive the agenda. It's their prerogative, their responsibility to determine what they want to talk about in each of the coaching sessions. The relationship has to work for both the coach and the client, not just the client. So when I say number three, an opportunity to determine the chemistry with the client, that is from my perspective as the coach. Do I have a sense of comfort, but even beyond comfort, do I have a connection? Do I have a sense of their higher level willingness to go deep in our coaching engagement as if we were to move forward for the next 6 months or a year? If I have a sense that this is just obligatory, I have to be here, I have to talk to you, my HR person or my L&D person or my boss who's the CXO of something. I'm just here to punch the ticket and so I can go. Then I'm probably not going to have personally a chemistry with that individual. They may be coachable at some point, but right now for me, I want somebody that's really dedicated to their own personal growth, their own personal development, and they're willing to do the work. And that means getting serious about it. That means going deep. That means that it's not just I need to punch the ticket and show it to whoever at my organization, say, yep, I did this. So that would be an element for me in terms of chemistry. Okay. So again, the relationship has to work 100% for me as a coach. I don't want to waste my time with somebody that's not ready or willing or able to be coachable, and show up 100%. And it has to be 100% workable, working for the client, both ways, not just the client. And lastly, this is an excellent coaching way to practice my coaching. If I'm a new coach, do sample sessions. Sample sessions are typically no charge, pro bono. I do this for as part of my marketing efforts to attract clients to my coaching practice. So they're easy, if you will, to acquire, and it's a sample session kind of by design is one-off, is meaning that we're going to get together for an hour. Okay, is what I recommend. And during that hour, I will explain to you what coaching is, talk to you a little bit about the background of coaching, what your role is going to be, what my role is going to be. And then we'll actually do a live, actual one-on-one coaching session. Okay. So in the next episode number 8, we're actually going to do a live coaching session, a live sample session, coaching session, and the pre portion of it and the post portion of it. So you don't want to miss that. Episode number 8 is the live demo. In the meantime, if I'm a new coach, then do 10 of these a week. Assume that it's going to take approximately an hour. Find people that are interested in coaching. If you have started to study coaching, or you're a new coach and gone through a coach training program and have, 60 hours of coach-specific training from an accredited coach training company like Coach for Life. Okay, that's my company. That is an ICF, International Coaching Federation accredited. Then start doing sample sessions. It's kind of like for a baseball player to get into the batting cage and practice hitting the ball. And if that's probably a poor analogy for an international, but it's practicing your craft, practicing your sport, practicing what it is that you want to get better at. It is an easy way to do it. It's easily scheduled. It's easily you'll get feedback on your coaching by design, by what you do afterwards, and asking the client, so what benefit did you get from this? What did you learn in this last half an hour of coaching with me? What was the benefit to you? And so on, right? And there's also a self-reflective part that I encourage you to do, which we'll go into in the structure of this in a moment. So practice, practice, practice. Okay, enough said on that. So here's the structure itself. Probably 5 minutes to talk about coaching. So we're not coaching yet, but we're into actually doing this sample session now. So I'm going to welcome this sample session client. Or I'm going to talk a little bit about the agenda, what we're going to be up to, and do a time check. I know we scheduled this for an hour. You're still good for an hour to do this, and they're going to go, "Oh, I thought it was a half an hour. I thought it was 45 minutes, or I have a hard stop at the end of an hour. Can we do it a little bit shorter than that?" Certainly. And then you just adjust the time that you do the coaching portion of it, which is typically a 30-minute session. 20 to 30 minutes is a really good kind of target for the actual coaching part, which is the center part of the sample session. But for the first 5 minutes, we're going to go through 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so welcome them. For 5 minutes, we're going to be talking about how coaching is set up, what your role is, what my role is, a little bit about coaching. For the next 30 minutes, we're going to or next 20 minutes, whatever you decide. All right, the one I've got set up in the structure right now in this episode, I'll say 20 minutes. And then maybe 5 minutes at the end to ask you some questions about your experience. Okay, so I'm setting this structure up for 30 minutes. You can expand it to be an hour. I wouldn't expand it to be more than that, frankly, because then you start getting into more of a conversation as friends or colleagues, and you get away from the professional role of a coach. Number 2, I'm going to explain confidentiality. And a way I would say that is coaching is 100% confidential. What you share with me will not go beyond me. I will not share this back with your employer. I won't share this with your family or friends if I'm part of that circle. And I also will share with them, I do not have the same privilege of confidentiality. Now, I'm in the U.S., and this changes from region to region, country to country. But I do not have the privilege of confidentiality as a lawyer in this country that has that confidentiality with a client, or perhaps a clerical minister or priest or a religious person that has that sense of confidentiality. And so, in this country, and this is a very broad brush, if you share something with me that has the potential of harming yourself or somebody else or property, then I must report that. I must report that to the appropriate authority. Okay, so that might be the police department, the fire department, a trained clinical therapist that can support this individual. I do not have that confidentiality that I'll hold that as confidential. Okay. But beyond that, to the full extent of the law, I'm going to hold what you share with me as confidential. Number 3, coaching. Coaching is a proven process used worldwide to accelerate the development of an individual in their personal and professional life. Okay? And a whole lot, there's much that can be accomplished in just a single session. So I'm framing this as that's what coaching is all about, in a very succinct manner, defining it. So it distinguishes it from mentoring and it distinguishes it from training. So I'm going to explain again how it works and what the role is next in number 4. It's always your agenda. Okay. Unlike training is the trainer's agenda. I'm going to train you on how to drive a car. I'm going to train you on how to work with a piece of software or an app. I'm going to train you in leadership development practices. I'm going to teach you in delegation. Whatever your training is all about, that's what you're training. That's a trainer's agenda. In coaching, it's the client's agenda. So I come with a blank slate as the coach. You bring the agenda of whatever it is that you want to talk about, move forward on, explore, want more of in your life, or want less of in your life, as the case may be. It's your agenda, and it's always your agenda. From session to session to session, it's your agenda. Number B, no advice. No advice from me. Even if I'm a subject matter expert in that area, even if you ask me, so Peter, what do you think I should do? Or what's the next step? Or what's the best option here? I do not give advice. I make it very clear from day one. We're into this sample session now, probably 3 minutes. And I'm going to share, no, I do not give advice. So if you want advice and you absolutely must have advice, then professional coaching. Now, there's going to be coaches out there that say, yeah, I'm happy to give you advice. I love giving advice. I am a subject matter expert. But they're not doing professional coaching. They're doing professional consulting, maybe. And they may be very, very good at that. And if that's what you're looking for, then coaching may not be the modality that you're looking for. Okay, so no advice. Only questions or observations back that will support you and your agenda. C, coach keeps track of time. Clients, because I'm mostly listening, will lose track of time. They just get lost in their own thoughts, their own issues, their own agenda. And so I make it a point that I will keep track of time. Okay, and I'll let you know. Interrupt, only for a coaching purpose. So I ask my client, very directly, do you give me permission to interrupt you to support you in our sample session here, and to keep you on track and to in support of your agenda is basically what I'm asking permission to interrupt. I do this because interruption culturally around the world is, I grew up that it's not polite to interrupt. It's not polite. It's wrong. You don't interrupt people. In coaching, it is a very powerful tool, and I need to be comfortable with that as a coach. One of the ways that makes me more comfortable with that is asking a client, letting them know, if you get into a long story, or I don't understand the words that you're using, or I've lost track of what you're talking about now, how it relates back to the original agenda, that there may be necessary for me to interrupt you to check in, okay, or to, again, support you in your agenda. That's all. E, self-generated options, actions, next steps. And the self-generated is self meaning the client. the client is directing this whole thing. So I have to keep in mind in terms of, okay, so it's not for me to jump in and tell them what to do here, or there's 3 more options that you haven't considered yet that I think you should consider. That's not coaching. That's not professional coaching. Again, that may be professional consulting, but not professional coaching. So self-generated is a key element within what I want to indicate even before we start coaching, so that they understand that. So when they ask me, okay, so Peter, you're a smart guy, or you're a leadership expert, tell me. And I'll say, no, as you recall, I don't give advice, and it's really important for you to figure this one out for yourself in terms of what's best for you. So what would it be? Right back to them. The last one I ask them is really a key to their sense of self-responsibility. And the way I ask this question is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how responsible are you for creating your own life moving forward? On a scale of 1 to 10, how responsible are you for creating your own life? 1 being, I'm not responsible at all. I never had the education. If they get into excuses or reality, and it's not an excuse just for the sake of an excuse, but they're living inside of a paradigm, a belief system, a been damaged or thwarted in some form or fashion earlier in life. Nobody in this organization has ever been promoted to CXO level without a college degree. And so that's a belief that they're carrying that says, I can't, I don't, I'll never be able to. If they're in that modality and they give themselves a 2 on the scale of self-responsibility for moving forward in the rest of their life, they may not be a coaching candidate. I personally like clients that say I'm an 8, a 9, a 10. It's like, yeah, I'm pretty much responsible for the good, the bad, and the ugly of my life moving forward. Okay, and sometimes I trip myself up, and yep, I'm responsible for that. And sometimes I speed ahead, and I'm responsible for that. And sometimes I can't, and I take responsible for that. That's a great candidate for coaching. Because if they get into coaching and you say, okay, so what do you want to do next? And they say, well, I really can't do anything. Then coaching stops, literally. It's like, oh, okay, so we're done. I mean, not just for that session, but maybe forever as a coach and client relationship. So that's a really key one. I compare this to a victim's mentality, which is down there at 1, 2, and 3. A victim mentality of I can't, I never have been able to, I was told I'll never amount to anything, and I pretty much believe that. They may be a great candidate for something else, but not professional coaching. Okay. All right. Let's move on. So that's the introduction, first 5 minutes. Okay, I've done a lot of explaining about the first 5 minutes, but basically you could do what's on this page in 5 minutes. Now, the actual coaching session, I let them know we're actually going to start the actual coaching session now. I make a big deal out of that. So it's like if you were calling me on an ongoing basis as my client, I'd hear their phone ringing, bring, bring, do something that indicates that they would be coming into the coaching session, so that what we've been doing for the last 5 or 10 minutes, whatever the intro is been talking about coaching. Now we're going to actually coach. Okay, so there's a demarcation. Bring the client present. Is there anything that you need to set aside? Is the way that I specifically ask this, so you can be 100% present for our time together in this coaching session. Yeah, I need to finish this email. I need to get the dog out of the room. I need to attend to my child is asking for some assistance right now. Can I handle that and come right back? Yeah, go do that. All right. So that's any of those kinds of things, so that when they're here, they're really here. and not distracted. Grounding or connection is the easiest and simplest way is, okay, I just invite us to take a deep breath together, a couple of deep breaths together, get centered and grounded, and take a nice, relaxing breath. Simple as that. There are lots of other more sophisticated and advanced ways of doing grounding and connecting, but this is meant to be a 15-second, 30-second grounding, not a 5-minute guided visualization. Okay, so just real quick. Use a starter wheel, a life wheel, a life balance wheel. There's several of them out there in the universe that have been used forever, even long before coaching ever started, frankly, that has you go around a wheel of, we call it the wheel of life. Where are you in your profession? Where are you with your primary relationship? Where are you with your other relationships? Where are you with rest and relaxation? So on. Just, you can go around the circle. There's no magic number. I wouldn't have it be more than 10 items. I wouldn't have it any less than 5 probably. But you can create your own wheel. And it's meant to be a universal wheel from the standpoint of it will be mostly applicable to everybody. Everybody has a professional part of their life. Everybody has a personal part of their life. Everybody has relationships of some form or sort in their life. Their relationship with money, their relationship with the rest and relaxation or personal development. Make it up. The purpose of this is to have them rate that from 1 to 10, each area. Don't have them describe what this 3 means and that 8 means. Otherwise, you'll be there for an hour just doing that wheel. But just say, here's the wheel. Give me a number from 1 to 10. 1 being, I'm not particularly happy with this area of my life right now. 10 is, yeah, I'm pretty happy with this area of my life right now. And then ask them in the wheel, which one would you like to focus on today? So what area of life, what specific part of that part of life is the next couple of questions to get the topic of the agenda down to a workable, if you will, focus, but a focus that allows them to actually move forward in that particular part. We're not trying to solve their entire life. Coaching is an ongoing process. The sample session is a one-off, as I've talked about, but once you get into coaching engagement, then they talk about a piece of life. They work on that maybe for the next week or 2. Then they come and whatever's top of mind 2 weeks from now, they talk about that and so on. And gradually, and maybe not even so gradually, it's really an exponential curve in a coaching engagement where the client is getting more and more resourceful, more and more clear, more and more working directly towards what they want to get out of life. But for right now, even in a 30-minute coaching session, it needs to be, what part of the wheel do you want to work on? I want to work on this one. Okay, great. And what inside of that, what element would you like to work on specifically in our session today? Or would you like to leave with? From there, the rest of the coaching session is a lot of what and how questions. It's open-ended questions of, okay, so what's already working, for example, in that 3? What's already in place? I like to work with what's positively there as opposed to what's missing right away, which most coaches are trained to do, by the way. They go into the gap. Figure out the gap. I hate that. I have a bias. Can you tell? Don't jump into the gap. If you ask them about the gap, then they're going to be, oh, this doesn't work, and this doesn't work, and I tried this, and that didn't happen, and they just, their sense of resourcefulness goes further down and down. Start with what's inside the 3. There must be something that's working already for it to be a 3, or a 2, or even a 1. They have an awareness around it. Well, this is working, and this is working, and now that I'm thinking about it, this is also working. We have a saying at Coach for Life that what you focus on expands. So have them focus on what's working first, not exclusively, but first, and then talk about where would you want it to be. By the end of our session today, where would you like the awareness of this particular area to be? You're currently at a 3, and your awareness would like to be at a what by the end of our session? I'd like it to be at a 6 or 7, maybe. Okay. And so what would that look like? What information would you have by the end of our session that you don't have now? Or what clarity? Or what consciousness? Or what impetus? Any of those kinds of questions. What are the options that you've looked at so far or considered? How would you go about this? Okay, open-ended question. As opposed to, again, if you come out of a leadership position or an authoritative position and you say, okay, so wouldn't it be good idea if you were to, whatever follows that is closed-in, directed, and authoritative. The 3 things you don't want to do as a professional coach. So catch yourself. And again, that's why we're practicing. Practice. And say, wait a minute, let me rephrase that question. So what would be a good strategy to move forward on this? What would be the first step? Open-ended, they can go in any direction. Okay, towards the end of it, then you're going to say, I think I noticed an energy shift. If you did, so like, what's that about? So it's noticing is a statement, not a judgment, not advice, but it's an observation. Like when you're talking about the first 3 things, your energy was kind of flat. But then when you talked about that 4th one, it seemed like you were more excited or more passionate or something happened. What was going on for you when you started talking about that number 4 item? Oh, well, that's the one that I'm really most excited about. And then have them explore that. Okay, that's what that one's referring to. If it comes up, if it doesn't come up, then don't make it up. If you didn't detect any, they've either been at one level, high, low, medium, doesn't matter. But if they're at one level, then you don't basically ask that question because you don't notice an energy shift. The energy shift can be either up or down, by the way. Okay, so that is true. What action steps are you willing to take or commit to? Okay, is very typical ending kind of question at the end of, so based on what you've talked about and looking at the options, I think I heard maybe a couple of potential action steps. Which ones are you willing to commit to as you move forward? Okay. And then finally, bring the coaching to a close. Okay, and we're going to formally close our session. Time is up. Timekeeping, you can say that a little earlier in the 30 minutes if it's a 30-minute coaching portion at like 25 minutes into it. And again, keep track of time. We have about 5 minutes remaining. So how would you like to complete the session? Are there any action steps that you'd like to commit to or anything you want to say to feel like you're complete for our session today? Okay, so that would be, again, in preparation for the closing. Now, the last portion of the sample session, the last 5 minutes, is asking them some key questions. So what did you learn? Don't tell them what they learned. Don't say, did you get, don't try to judge if you thought that it went poorly or badly. Did you get anything out of that? There's a yes or no question, which is not what we want to do anyhow. So what did you learn? What benefit did you get? Now that's somewhat leading. I comp to that, but I want to find out, have them think through what benefit did you get from this coaching session. Okay. Share your interest in coaching them if you are interested in coaching them, and ask them if they choose to hire you. That's a really abbreviated version of this, the end portion here. You can ask those questions or not if you're not ready to. And don't ask them to hire you if you don't want them as a client, or you don't think that they would be a good client for you, or that they may be better served by a different modality after talking to them and getting to know them a little bit deeper. But those are for you to decide if and how you want to ask those questions. Don't be surprised if they say, "Wow, can I hire you, Peter, as my coach?" And be prepared to say, tell them how you work, how you what you receive in a way of compensation, so that you can have that conversation. Okay. After they hang up, this is a great example of modern day professional coaching, is to have a reflective practice. For me, for the coach, a reflective practice. We have to be dedicated to our own development as a professional coach, by ethically and professionally. So have a journal. Do it the methodology that you choose to do, but ask yourself some questions in terms of, what did I learn? What was great about this? What did I most enjoy about this particular coaching session? Again, not the confidentiality pieces that they shared with me, but my experience as a coach in this sample session, and allow that to inform you. I'm a big advocate of a written journal, handwritten journal. It helps solidify it in my mind. It documents it. I can go back and review it over the last 6 months and say, okay, so what's my journey been to become a professional coach, to get better at my craft? Okay. So a self-reflecting, questioning. You can add other questions to this, but it's kind of the basics. All right. So that's the sample session. It takes about an hour to do that, plus or minus, say, 15 minutes. You can adjust that accordingly. But I would encourage you to make sure that the middle portion of it is, you're going to say it's going to be a half an hour coaching, do it for half an hour. If you don't control that, then the client will go on and on and on. And I've had students that came back in the next day to the class and said, I didn't know how to stop them. So they didn't interrupt. They didn't keep track of time. And they end up coaching this person. Well, in some cases, they're not really coaching. They're just listening to somebody go through a download, because no one's ever listened to them the way that this coach has listened. So it's a huge benefit to the client. But keep track of time. Yeah. All right. Next episode number 8, is live demo. You don't want to miss that. So with that, I'm going to wish you a great week. Just be safe. God bless. Namaste. Be a great coach. Be a great professional coach.